let's continue. Now that you have reached the branch, or you may have reached the branch beforehand, that's not an issue. These steps are not in lockstep fashion. You can reach the branch and then do your inquiry later. It's not an issue if it's in the same city or in the nearby city. You can just visit the branch directly. You should not retrieve data beforehand. Not an issue, but you can do it for the second branch what you are auditing. You can get the data beforehand for the second branch. That's another case. So let's get on with it. So first is a kickoff meeting. Is an initial meeting, or what you really call is a kickoff meeting with the management of the branch, that is the branch manager. So you gather information specifically about what have the frauds been identified, if there are any suspected frauds, what are your weak signaling accounts which may need some looking, but trust me, they won't tell you anything beforehand. Okay, now what you need to do is request the branch manager to provide you adequate access to CBS. So you may have your auditor login, you will have the branch manager login. The branch manager will of course have more features, but I tell you that you need to use your auditor login for most of your reports. And if you can't get a report because you are not authorized to get it, you can ask the branch management or the IT team. The IT team at the zonal level can get it for you, because after all, a branch is not able to retrieve data because it's not able to do the querying part of it. It cannot do the query part. Now the query is an SQL query. I mean, this is going too deep. I am not talking about it much in detail, but yeah. So what the IT team can do is fetch a simple SQL, do a SQL query to fetch the relevant data from the CBS database and send it to you across in an Excel format. That's much easier if you want some specific data that is not available within the branch. Well, it's usually available, not an issue. Okay, now the branch may have some different softwares, okay, for reconciliation and even for NPA, IREC, automation. This a deadly circular by by the RBI regarding automation of the IREC process, and what the banks need to have is a separate software for automating the IREC, different from the CBS. Usually it's I don't remember the name. I think it was ASCROM is the name of the software used by one of the banks that I go for audit. And then you need to firstly understand what are the different softwares. Again, what you are doing is understanding the entity and its environment. Then what you want to do is kick off with some easy task, that is going for external confirmations and cash count. These are the two things that you want to do on your first day, in your first hour. The first thing is to send the external confirmation. Now who do you want to send your external confirmations to? You can send external confirmations to balances with other banks. So if there is balance with other bank, what you need to do is get these confirmations on email and ask the branch to and also give you the reconciliation statement. If they have reco statement, you can check with it as well. Okay, these are also related to LFAR, cash and balances with other banks. So that comes around handy that you send this. If there is any nostro accounts with the bank, very unlikely, very not likely for smaller branches, but again, if that's the case, you can send external confirmations for that as well. And you can select some top advances and deposits, so you can send confirmations to them as well, not an issue. And what you want to do is with the branch, if you are sitting with the branch manager and it's not the case that you have sent the branch profile to the branch manager, you can fill it up with the branch manager while you are sitting there, because it also acts as a simple open questionnaire so that you get to understand the branch. So you can fill up a branch profile, so ensure that the details for the branch are maintained in case of a future query. And then what you need to do is obtain the following copies, and you need to read and understand the risk areas. What do I mean by it? It's the inspection part of risk assessment procedures. What I'm talking about is SA 315. You need to read these reports, you need to inspect these reports in order to identify the risky areas. So first is your concurrent audit report, the second could be the annual assessment report by RBI, and again what you need to do as a checkpoint is If it has any recommended changes, there you should make sure it's done. If it's not incorporated within the branch, you have to go for the MOC. So the branch inspection report that may be conducted by RBI, or even it could be an internal inspection. LFAR and previous year audit reports, these are all previous year reports. If these are not, again, and also your previous year MOC. If there is any stock audit reports issued for the borrowers, if there is EDP and system audit reports that has been conducted, there could be a risk focused internal audit. This is just basically internal audit. And if there is any forensic audit for any borrower accounts, if there is any credit account reports, and if there is any currency chest verification report, certificates issued by the predecessor auditor, you have to read all of these and make notes. You need to make notes of non-compliances referred in above, because any non-compliances referred in above are risk areas. You need to emphasize with the branch that if you have not complied with it yet, after all these days which have passed from the audit report or the any other system report or inspection report, you should have complied with these recommended changes. And if they are not done and they impact your financials or your IRAC norms, you should issue the MOC for such changes, and once you verify that these changes are legitimate. All right. Now, if the branch is covered under concurrent audit, the concurrent audit report for February and March may not be available as on that date. What you can do is ask the branch manager to connect you with the concurrent auditor, so you can get the confirmation that there are no material accounts affected and no NPA detected by the concurrent auditor. You should do it on email as well. You should put an email, ask them to reply, and you can take it as a written representation. So because the concurrent auditor is, in my opinion, the third wall, the third line of defense, And if you don't know that the line of defense is a theory that first is the management, the second is the board, the third is the internal auditor, the fourth is the statutory auditor. These are the 4 lines of defense. So the third line of defense, of course, the internal auditor, also the concurrent auditor. You can ask them to provide you such details of whether they have any material observations regarding the advances. And once you have the relevant circulars and policies with the branch for the branch audit, and these are also uploaded on the server on which the bank audit report is to be uploaded, and then it's consolidated at the head office level. And what you can do as a checkpoint is you should obtain the bank's NPA management policy and loan policies. And once you obtain them, you can upload it to ChatGPT along with the relevant RBI directions and circulars. Of course, there are many bank audit GPTs now being made in your ChatGPT as custom GPT. You can do it. You can select reason and ask for deviations. Reason plus ask for deviation and divergences in the policies, so you can identify the material issues. This is more applicable for everything that you can do in your audits. Okay. The third thing is you can review your closing returns prepared by the branch, because the branch has to provide some closing returns which may to their head offices, zonal office. These may be monthly reports, these may be fortnight reports, these can be quarterly reports, but it all ends on 31st March. So there must be some closing returns that are prepared by the branch, which are to be submitted along with the audit report. You should review them as well. The most important thing is you should sign the certificates which are referred under the appointment letter. For that, what you need to refer is also the guidance note 2016 regarding this. You should issue an covering audit report. You should issue a covering audit report. All of this has been referred in the guidance note 2025 by bank audits. You should refer to how certificate signing is to be done. Okay, this should be done, and you need to mention it under the UDIN as well, what certificates you have signed, and you should also provide a list of certificates signed so that they cannot misuse your UDIN, because there is only one UDIN generated for LFAR bank audit report and all of this, because it's considered as a single assignment while you are certifying some certificates as well. The certificate needs to be added in the UDIN remarks first of all, and the second is you need to get an annexure which is the list of certificates acknowledged by the branch that these all have been received. Okay, and again the same thing, you have to rotate a tracker on the email regarding pendency, and this helps to document the trail and flow of data. Always take the documents on email except for the documents which are obvious, the files which are kept in the branch. You cannot take them on email, you should just get them scanned. And at this point, once this is your day one of reaching the audit, what you can do is determine the materiality beforehand, but the definition of materiality should also sing along with your normal risk assessment procedures. So once you are done with your preliminary analysis of the branch, preliminary audit program, preliminary risk assessment, you should determine your materiality in accordance with the SA 320. This should be based on net profits because the banking is a profit oriented business, and you can make alternative benchmarks as well because it's all dependent on your auditor's judgment. And more important thing, the materiality can also be set for significant class of transaction, account balances and disclosures separately. So if you are confused about what is SCOTS, what is account balance, what is disclosure, you may refer to my essay video, maybe if I upload it, because I have a video on essays as well. But let's just talk about it. Let's completely do it. So materiality is what? Materiality as per SA 320 is a threshold. And they're very smart. They have not said it's an amount, it's a threshold which above which if a misstatement happens, it can have an economic impact, it can have a material impact, it can have an economic impact on the decision of the user of the financial statement. So it says you have to consider materiality from the point of view of the user. Who is the user of the financial statement? Their economic decision, so it should be a relevant decision. User's economic decision change if such threshold is breached. Okay, this is what materiality means. So the materiality is set for both. It is set for the whole financial statements at the FS level, which is what you refer for usually your adverse remarks, your adverse opinion. If the materiality exceeds if the materiality exceeds the materiality set for the whole financial statement, it should lead to an adverse opinion. While the materiality can also be set for significant class of transaction, SCOTS, your account balances and your disclosures. Let's talk about each of them. SCOTS. What is a SCOT? A SCOT is a class of transaction which goes into the profit and loss account. Okay, an account balance is something which stands outstanding on the date, which goes into your balance sheet. What is a disclosure? A disclosure is a note disclosing certain information which is linked to the financial statements. It is a note usually disclosing necessary information for the users to make economic decisions. That's what a disclosure is. And a disclosure is misstated if it is wrong. Okay, so that is what you need to understand, that the materiality in relation to disclosures is a qualitative aspect, whether the quality of disclosures is appropriate, qualitative or quality aspect. But while the materiality for SCOTS and account balances is both qualitative and quantitative. Okay, that is what materiality means. You can set different materialities for different things. So your accordingly you need to set a materiality for FS at a whole level. You should have materiality at the performance level, that is your performance materiality. That's what you should consider while you're doing your audit. And then what you need to have is materiality for the SCOTS. You can have different materiality for advances, you can have different materiality for other advance interests, and other expenses. It could have different motility. You can have different motility for deposits, you can have different motility for advances, and you can do it at a more stratified level again. And what you need to determine is also a CTT, a clearly trivial threshold. A clearly trivial threshold, clearly trivial threshold. What it means is a level below which misstatements are ignored, and these are not even aggregated. This is a sum sign, not aggregated. That is what a clearly trivial threshold is. And in bank audit, what is the more beauty of the bank audit is, in the bank audit, the clearly trivial threshold is provided in your appointment letter, not in the appointment letter, but also as instructions to SBA, instruction to SBA, even for SCA to SBA, the instruction by SCA to SBA, instruction by SBA to SCA. All of this, they will tell you that if, let's just take in random amount, if rupees 10,000 or less, okay, if 10,000 rupees or less amount is to be modified, you should not issue an MOC, because what the bank has to do is go for an MOC at the central level, because they cannot make changes to the data in their servers. What they have to do is make the changes in the financial, and they cannot really do it at a large level of 1800, 2000 branches and whatnot. So it's very difficult for the branches to do it, for the banks to do it. So what they ask is, let there be material misstatements up to this level, which should not be aggregated. This should be your CTT as well. Okay, that's what something I wanted to talk about motility. Okay, now concluding the video, that is, what you need to do is meet the branch manager. You should request for emails for sending external confirmations. You should fill up the branch profile. You should skim through your reports, assess your risk areas. You should read the recent concurrent auditor's report. You should compare banks' closing circular policies with the RBI through ChatGPT. What you can do is leverage on these tools. You should determine your motility, and you should keep the tracker for pendency. And that was about step 4.